There you go. So welcome everyone to the Octant community meeting. It's September the 1st, 2021. Today, broadcasting live from a nice co-working space as my home internet connection just crashed. The kind of things that occur when you live on a farm. So we really appreciate that you are here. Let me start sharing my screen for the folks that are joining here from Zoom. Hide meeting controls. There you go. Thank you. Notifications. Okay, like every other community meeting, remember that our agenda is open. If you have questions, need help, or have ideas, feel free to add it to the agenda. And also consider adding your name and organization to the attendees list so we can connect with you after the meeting. For past meeting notes, they've been migrated to GitHub discussions. The idea is to have here at least the last two meeting notes in the agenda here, and the remaining will be at GitHub discussions. Right. So again, welcome everyone, and we'll go straight to the status updates. Well, first of all, speaking of getting to know better our users, if you're an often user of your recording, please add or please consider adding details about your organization, the company you work for, and how you use Octant. Why is that? Or what's the goal of that? Mm, We want to, keep improving the tool and keep extending it to cover additional use cases. And even with the best of our intentions, there's no better source of ideas and feedback than from our user base. So please consider adding details to this discussion. You just need to add it as a submit an answer here. Using this format, we even provided an example from a current user organization who already provided their details. And if you agree sending your details there, we will add that information to the public adopters list, the Octant adopters list. So somehow we will promote your organization as an Octant adopter. So we really appreciate if you are able to do that. Okay, well, item a demo. We like demos. The Go plugin auto reloading. So I guess I'll stop sharing. Check. My audio is spotty. When I move my hands away from the mic, it improved. Okay. How about the audio now? So I will stay.
It's better now.
Okay.
Sorry, I had a Zoom crash. I'm back now. I think you said we're demoing the thing I put in the list. Is that right?
Yeah, we're in
Great.
that item.
Okay. Let me share up Octant. Okay. Everyone seeing Octant all right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay. So what I'm demoing today is the ability to dynamically load Go plugins. JavaScript plugins have had this capability for a while, but the Go plugins have always required a hard stop and restart of Octant. So you can see right now I have no plugins installed. So we'll go back to this page here, and what I'm going to do is in a command line terminal that you currently can't see, I'm just going to build the Octant sample plugin. And once I do that, um, it will you'll just see it pop up. So that command is running, and you can see the sample plugin has popped into our menu here, and also our extra details and tabs from the plugin are there. If I remove the if I just remove the binary that's currently there, so I just RM'd it, you can see that it's gone. It's gone from the list. It's also no longer listed as installed. Um, I'm going to go ahead and actually reinstall it now because the next thing I want to show is so running the build to get it installed. So imagine you have some automated process that's just building your plugin anytime you make a change. Um, so with that in mind, what we can do is then in the actual sample plugin itself, going to do this right now. You can see it says from plugin on there. I'm going to change that to just say demo from plugin. I'm going to save and then I'm going to rebuild and install the plugin. And what will happen is that now pops up demo from plugin. It's all reloaded. The other nice thing is that if you just so that was just overriding the binary. If you rename the plugin like in the folder, it will stop and restart it given its new name. That doesn't impact the actual data that's displayed here. What it does is just make sure that the process management is looking at the right binary. So when Octant does shut down and is looking for processes that it's in control of, the executable name and the actual process name all line up. So if I move this plugin right now in my plugin folder, you see it goes away and comes back. I can also overwrite it with just a completely different plugin, and now it's this GVK sample plugin that I have. So yeah, that's kind of it. It's if you develop plugins and you work with plugins, this is something that I know folks have been wanting for a while around the Go plugins, and it is quite useful. Um, so yeah, that's kind of it.
It's very cool. I feel like our demos could benefit from peanut gallery sound effects, like ooh,
Yeah, yeah.
wow.
Um,
Wow. Well,
That's
that
cool. Thanks for demoing that.
yeah, that's awesome. So that means no more Octane reload for when installing Go plugins.
correct. Yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Great.
That is a great new feature. I mean, I know the pain of like restarting Octant every time I update the plugin. So yeah, it's great, great new feature.
Yeah, and it's a pretty easy workflow to just kind of enable, right? Like if you have a build script that installs your plugin into the plugins folder or recompiles it anytime there's a change. I think that's something we could actually just add to some type of helpers or hacks package or something like that to easily you just watch for changes in the directory, rebuild the plugin, and overwrite the old one, and it just stops and reloads. And so yeah, it's very responsive. You know, I was playing around with it and kind of just making like rapid changes, save build type rapid changes, and they show up almost as fast as I can alt tab over there.
That's great. Thank you so much, Wayne. Okay.
Oh, and one last thing to call out. So the reason we're doing this is yes to make things better for plugin authors, but also to eventually have plugin management, first class support for plugin management in the UI. So now that the now that the binaries that get placed into the folder and all of that is being handled and looked at by the Octant process itself, the UI around this is much more simple. It's delete, upload to the folder, delete from the folder, and Octant just does the right thing. So expect the plugins module that we currently have to get some updates soon around being able to upload plugins through Octant, delete plugins through Octant. We don't really have a mechanism to say like pause this plugin, which is something that I think will eventually add. There's no issue or request for it, but I think the moment we have plugin management within the system, I can definitely see people wanting to, install a bunch of plugins and then go, oh, you know what, turn that one off for now because I don't really care about it, or turn version 1 of that plugin off and turn version 2 of that plugin on. I could definitely see that being a thing that folks would want to do. So that's not part of this work. This is just the underlying work that the UI can build on top of. But this implementation does kind of support that ability to pause, essentially unregistering everything without actually deleting the binary. That would be possible. There is no good mechanism to say this plugin has been paused, and if you restart Octant, don't reload it. So it would be a runtime type pause, at least for now. But anyway, UI coming.
Yes. On the note of UI, I think just with the way that the Angular applications work, it doesn't have access to the file system. So I'm wondering if this will be the first case where we have like the UI is only an Electron only feature.
Yes. Yeah. Plugin management, being able to delete and add plugins will be Electron only. There's just no way to do it through what we currently have as the browser view. But long-term, Octant is going to be an application that is Electron only anyway. So people still using the web view as a crutch will eventually have to come to terms.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Queen. That's great. Now with the Starboard plugin update, this is exciting, really important. I believe it's 10. No?
Yeah, sure. Do you mind if I share screen for this one?
Yeah.
Excellent. Boom, share screen. All right, sure, take the whole desktop. All right, does this look visible? Maybe a little larger?
Yeah,
Yeah, that looks better.
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. Okay, cool. So this is going to be based on a lot of the work that Daniel talked about last community meeting. So I'm not going to go through too much of the details. Just rewatch his video if you're interested in like the motivation for a lot of these changes. But essentially, a lot of this is just work to catch up with a lot of the additional work that Octant has put in since the initial release. And I suppose we just haven't been doing a good job of broadcasting out some of these quality of life changes. And so some of these existing plugins aren't using these changes. So I decided to just take it upon myself to implement them and make a PR. That being said, this is a good exercise because it also exposed some of the integration type stuff that is a little buggy and developer experience things on our plugin API, which aren't necessarily the best. So there are some lessons to be learned from this exercise. So I'll just go through some of the quick changes. The first one is that Octant, for I think since the last couple of releases, they're able to use to add an object, like plugins can change the object status of any object, meaning you have these icons that go green, check mark for okay, and then it's got a warning yellow, and then it's got a error red. And so the idea here is that this Nginx pod, it's got this Starboard plugin already loaded, and I think I already have the scans pre-run. So it's already got the scans, and you can see here that it says it's got 35 critical vulnerabilities. So the expectation then is the status to be in an erroring state. And so here we can see, okay, now our critical high vulnerabilities, and it's just set in a way where I'm saying if it has any critical vulnerabilities, it'll just be in an error state. So this logic can be toggled around, maybe, but essentially the core idea is the mechanism is there and we can use it. Moving on, there is also the idea that previously, anything that was under this audit reports tab was just inside of this summary page, which made it look super busy and somewhat difficult to work with. So now this audit reports just gets its own page. Fairly straightforward move. We just grab the content and just plop it over a new thing. So this single Starboard plugin is actually making this audit reports tab and this vulnerability tabs. And then I have the sample plugin tab that's just hanging out doing the extra pod details. And so in this audit reports tab, we've changed a lot of the existing work where I think like at the time that this plugin was written, it used a lot of markdown components as just a hack to get around things that were possible with our components at the time, namely being like generation of some of these icons. So it turns out that still wasn't working currently on 0.23. So the PR is already up for this, but essentially what's happening is that these are not using a markdown component anymore. These are using text components, and it's setting the icons as they're supposed to be. We've added some manual sorting to the status, just an example of how to do it. There was like a minor nitpick during the demo. I don't know if y'all caught it. It was very quick, but like I made a mistake where I set some CSS overrides globally, and it turned these white in light mode, but now this is fixed, so our pagination buttons are visible again. So that's that. It's not too particularly exciting. And then also you can also see there's some rough edges. I wrote in the meeting notes, like the big one being like, oh, Octant itself says the pod is okay because Octant is looking for this pod running and saying it's okay. But then we also have this additional status. So maybe the logical thing to do is like have like the highest error state wins. So like I would no longer show whatever component is injected from the okay status, but only things from the critical status or the error state. So that's kind of a nice to have, and we can kind of see there's maybe like something a bit more to be desired with these signposts UI and being able to match the child, but not a hard deal breaker. And probably for the most exciting thing, at least in my opinion, is let's say you have the Starboard thing set up, you installed the CRDs, but previously it was a Starboard scan. So Octant has since then implemented write capabilities and this concept called actions. So if you want to actually start a scan, I'll actually start. So this is creating Cube Hunter report. So this is kind of the same problem that I've had of a lot of other plugins, where if you dispatch a workload that takes a non-trivial amount of time, and by non-trivial, I mean like maybe like say like more than 10 seconds and like upwards of a minute, what ends up happening is that you can have these things pop up, but you're kind of guessing how long it takes. And I'm running this on a desktop with a fairly beefy compute resource. So this took like maybe 20 seconds, but on a larger cluster, I could expect this to take longer. And I just haven't quite figured out a good UI to show that it's still working on it, with Kubernetes being declarative. So like this is actually just a CRD. And so we're just waiting for this CRD to be created to generate this report. So I'm not sure about this one. Like either the CRD does exist or does not exist, or maybe there's certain hooks that we can do to show progress capture as it goes through. But for the time being, I just written this bit as an example that that you can trigger actions and that you can actually generate these reports natively from within Octant and sort of get away from the patterns of, oh, here's a command line command to do this particular thing you might want to do. And so like for something that hasn't run the reports yet, we can kind of see the same pattern propagate out to this audit report using config audit reports and also this vulnerability reports. So this pattern essentially can be reused. And something that might be more interesting out of this pattern is that maybe we should be creating hooks on our, like an additional plugin API service where we can add additional actions from plugins to just do these things at a glance. So just gonna scan using scan using that config audit, or scan using Cube Hunter, or whatever Trivy, whatever tool it might be to do it. So that's kind of it. I have this code locally. I'll probably push it up to a fork. I'll push up this branch today to a Maya fork, but I won't actually PR this code until 0.24 comes out, since it won't quite look this way yet on 0.23. So that's about it. Any questions, comments, or anything else that?
Yeah, for this feature that you mentioned, that Daniel kind of requested at the last meeting, what was the first release when they were available? I mean, to change the object status from plugin. What was the first release that was available?
I don't know. Then look at the change logs.
Okay, yeah, because I'm wondering, you know, we need to do a better job in that kind of life in my area to communicate these features and all that to our plugin author ecosystem. So I'll make sure that they know about that. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Share my screen. Got it. Any additional comment? No. Okay. Yeah, this is a PR the Star Wars team will really appreciate. Okay. I brought up this here just to check real quick the current progress on the upcoming .24 release. So I don't know if Wayne or someone else would like to share briefly about this.
Sure, yeah. So the focus for this upcoming release was all around plugins. We have gotten quite a bit of very cool work done around plugins, and a lot of just kind of paper cuts cleaned up and quality of life fixes in there. Some of the things that we were hoping to get done for this release are going to be pushed out to the as a follow-up release, and that's mainly some of the UI around managing plugins, and there was a couple other things that the documentation. We're gonna do that as a focused sprint to kind of revamp all of our docs. So I think there's one outstanding issue that we might do a short. We have to discuss it as a team and figure it out. My opinion is that there are two issues in our to-do list. One is there's a panic with the YAML viewer that I think should be fixed as part of a release. And there's another one in the list. Oh, where's it at? Um,
Panic is this one, 2798.
yeah, 2798 is the panic, and then there's another one. Maybe I didn't add it to O.24. Sorry, I'm
Seems
trying
like
to find it. Yeah, so I think anyway, the release itself, we're in a good spot. We have some PRs in flight today that are kind of the major outstanding body of work. So there's a better logging from Luis. There is custom icons from Felipe. There's some documentation updates from Sam, and there is the plugin management or the plugin reloading for Go plugins that I just demoed that are all in review and eminent. There's also a whole host of small fixes and paper cuts that Sam addressed. So he just demoed from the Starboard plugin as the platform for demoing those. So yeah, we're in a good spot. Um, will we cut it today? Is probably a better question. Um, Potentially, I think depending on how the reviews go and what shakes out there, we'd be looking at a late uh, like afternoon Pacific time, evening Eastern time release, or potentially tomorrow for actually we might get the assets together this evening and then publish them tomorrow. But yeah, I think we're in a good spot.
cool. Thank you. Thank you, Wayne. Okay. Well, I don't know if another comment, discussion point. I just wanted to share briefly with the community because I found some users out there, also kind users, their kind environment, without using a plugin, because well, you actually connect Octant. There's a kind plugin with some base features right now. For those of you who are probably not aware, Kind is a nice project that allows you to run Kubernetes cluster where the nodes are not VMs but actual Docker containers. So that's Kubernetes in Docker. So the Kind plugin, um, well, I've been using it for a while, and it's interesting because you can even create a cluster here. I know you can do it from the Kind command line, but it's nice to have all the step-by-step process here. I don't know, the number of workers, which are basically containers, the version is important, and then all the networking details. The API server address. There are some considerations for that in the Kind documentation, filling these fields, and there are also the probably the feature gates, which are basically features that you can turn on or off in the Kubernetes cluster. You can do it right from the cluster creation here. That's the current status of the plugin. There are some nice to have features that there is that I believe was Sam who added here, and according to what you were mentioning, it's similar than what we see in other plugins. After we get a new cluster, there's no clear way to find what's happening during the process, right? Besides context change. So for those of you Kind users out there, consider using the Octant plugin for Kind, and let us know your thoughts, feature requests, and of course PRs are welcome. Okay, right. So I don't know if there's another comment or thing that you like to mention this meeting. No?
Yeah, I have a few words about the Kind plugin itself. So, like, it was originally created to help out with the ephemeral container work on Octant. Like, it was like I haven't really like my scope of this workflow is very limited, and so I'm definitely interested in hearing like what specific things people are using Kind for that might be trickier than just Kind create cluster, right? So like for example, like we see like that whole networking section, like why are people making these configuration changes? What use cases are those? That is something that I prefer to have better knowledge of before implementing more features in the future.
Sure. Thank you, Sam. Okay. If there is no other comment, really appreciate that you join us today, and have a nice day.